create value. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever used a system that worked well, did what it was supposed to be, but still felt useless or frustrating? Have you ever run into that situation that, yeah, let's say that you log into the college system, yes, you were able to register, but the time it took you to register, it felt too much, it didn't work well, it felt frustrating. Have you ever experienced that? Because I certainly did. So I'm pretty sure you have run into that situation several times. And that's exactly the problem we are going to talk about or analyze in chapter 1 and 2. So the technology alone does not create value. So what matters is how that technology contributes to the organization. So we are going to talk about that, and we are going to understand a little bit is what IT value really means. Because value means different things for different people. Why is so difficult to achieve that? The biggest challenges organizations face and the best practice for delivering IT value successfully. You might be wondering, why are we talking about that? I'm going to be coding, but you're not going to be coding all the time. You're going to have to deal with different situations in different positions. Chapter 2, we are going to talk about IT strategy and how that aligns with business strategy. We are going to talk about how intentional technology has to be developed to support the business goal. And specifically, why IT strategy is critical to business value, how IT and business strategy evolve together, the common issues or pitfalls that organizations face when developing those strategies, and key practice that leads to effective IT strategies and implementation. So let's start with the basics. What is value? Again, IT value is not about the technology working well or being delivered on time, on budget. That was the old way of thinking. Value in IT can be defined in several ways, and we need to consider that it's a multi-layer concept. So it's not answering one question. The context has a way to affect the value, and is shaped by perception. Not everybody feels the same way. So let's start with the multi-layer. We can think of each layer of a series of questions that we answer, okay? The first one is the most obvious one, is what value will be delivered? Let's say that a company builds an application, and what is being delivered with that application? Well, it could be, if it's a bank, it could be checking the balance, transfer money, paying bills. That seems straightforward. But we can have a situation that two banks develop the same app, assign the same features, not the same app, but one feels easy, fast, reliable, and the other feels slow and confusing for the user. So, in the most basic level, what is the value that we will deliver? The value will not be the same. It will create different values, because the one that is fast, reliable, will feel that it created more value than the other one. The second layer is where is the value created? Where does the value actually show up in the organization? let's take an automatic system in a company. It reduces manual data entry and speed up process. Where is the value created? Well, depending of who you talk to. For employees, the value created, it was less repetitive work. For the manager, a better efficiency. For the company, lower operating cost. But what if the employees feel that they are being replaced by that technology? So that technology that was a positive thing for the employee because they have less repetitive work now feels a threat and it has a negative value. And that might cause the employees not want to share information or even use it. So the value is not localized in one place of the organization, it's expressed across the different stakeholders in the organization. The third layer is who is responsible for what, for the value. And this requires collaborations between technology, process, and people. A key for success and to create value is for business leaders to be actively involved to ensure that technology aligns with business objectives. So let's say that a hospital installs a new patient management system, technologically thinking, it works perfectly, it's well designed, it meets all the requirements. But if you have staff that don't trust that system, that don't use it properly, go back to manual method. Well, that creates a failure for the system. So even if we co-develop a perfect system that meets all the requirements, all the specifications, it can still fail because user adoption. Maybe the proposed process is not, it was changed from the user perspective. And there is no organizational support. So what we need to understand is the value doesn't come from technology only, which we discussed that several times through the course, but also the people involved and the process involved. The fourth layer is time. So we understand technology, most of the time we understand that IT initiative takes time to mature and the value realization takes time. Let's say that a company implement an analytic platform, and if somebody evaluates the value of that platform right away, employee might not see the value because employee don't know how to use it. Reports at the beginning can be inconsistent until we have all the data uploaded and a history of data, and adoption is slow. At some point, somebody can say this system does not deliver value. But with time, over time, you have employee trained, so there's more employee using them. Insight improves, decision-making can be faster. Now the values start to appear. So it's key to understand what would be the timeline to create that value. Because if you evaluate your IT initiative too soon, usually even good systems will feel like a bad investment. And these are the things that we need to think about when we are communicating our projects. These are the layers that we need to communicate and to understand when we are developing the system and when we are communicating this project. The last layer, the fifth layer, is how will value be delivered? So what we are trying to say is not that just what we build, but how we deliver that system. What are the training, what are the support that the company will have, how we're going to handle integration, and you have a good understanding of that because I saw on the midterm, so far I graded half, so I need to grade the other half, and I'm sorry for that. Hopefully by the end of tomorrow, I will have all graded, so you will see your grades soon. But most people had a good understanding of the importance of delivery. And this require coordination between the people that are going to use the system, how they're going to be trained, how the process must need to be changed before we develop those systems, and the technology that we use. So value does not happen automatically. It must be designed. We need to agree what the value will be, and it needs to be managed. One concept that also helps us or affect the value is the perception of value. So we talk a little bit about this. We understand that different users might have different perception. And that's what creates conflict within the organization. For example, we might have executives to improve the performance. They want to improve the performance. The developer wants to develop a good, well-built code. But the user is frustrated with the system. So who is right with the system? Well, all of them are correct. They are seeing the system in their own world. So I asked you at the beginning if you actually use a system that worked well, but still had issues that make you not like it. So do you think that that system was valuable? So you can say that technologically, yes, it was valuable. It allowed you to register to the courses that you want to register. It worked. So functionally, yes, it's valuable. But it didn't feel valuable because it created frustration. It took you more time than you expected to take you to do what you wanted to do. So this is an example that the idea of value is not objective, is perceived. And this will depend on the goals, the expectations, and the experience of the person that is evaluating those systems. So the stakeholders of the system influence how IT is judged. So if my expectations as a CEO were not met, that means that this system will fail. These expectations also affect the relationship between the business areas and the technology area. And at the end, it shapes if technology is seen as success or a failure. So if the expectations are too high and this was not addressed before the system were implemented, even very good systems can feel that they were bad systems. So one key that a lot of people like that work in IT have issue is managing IT value expectation. And managing this expectation requires a lot of communication and understanding of what is it that we are trying to do. So you can say, well, if value depends on how it's perceived, how the organization actually built that something is valuable over time. And that's where the idea of the type of value comes in. So organizations don't immediately create innovation. And in technology, they first need to go through the different type of value creation. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have a technology that is not functioning well, is not reliable, then you cannot create innovation. The first thing that technology needs to provide to the organization is stability and competencies. System must be reliable. System must be available. You have to be consistently on time and on budget. And if we have that, if we don't have this, if we don't have those reliabilities and the system working well, then we cannot do anything else. Then is what are the goals? What problems are we resolving? And that stage, IT moves from the technical support that was the role in reliability to a more of a business partner. So once we have this relationship, we need to build trust. We need to make sure that the business unit believe that we understand their needs. We will deliver what we say we are going to deliver, and that what we are delivering is going to be responsive. And once we have that trust from the different business units in the organization, we can start thinking about strategy and creating value. We are going to be able to start shaping initiatives, contributing to ideas, influence what the direction of the IT and the organization goes. And that's where IT stopped being a support, being now a partner on a strategic, and which allows the organization to create new products, new services, or even business models. One thing that we need to keep in mind is that the type of value cannot be skipped. Like you cannot skip step. It's like in a relationship. You are not strangers, and then the next day you have deep trust overnight. So this is something that the organization needs to work on, and depending on the type of organization, you're going to be in a different level of this pyramid of type of value. So you could think that simply moving through this pyramid that's all that we need to do. But even organizations progress in different ways and different paces. So this is affected by the organization context. And what is the organization context? Is the ability to create IT that does not happen in isolation. You need to consider what is the extent of the organization that adopted the level. What level of IT adoption has the organization? What resources does the organization have? What technological resources the organization has? What is the culture and openness to change? So even this different, the same industry, different organizations, they might be in a different level of the type of value hierarchy. You can have two organizations with the same technology, but if the culture is different, it will affect what the value of that technology will be. So the context where the organization works determine how the IT value is perceived. So if we study all this, we understand all this, the type of organization, the context of the organization, the type of value, we understand that, why our organization still struggling to create value? And this is because they fall into mistakes or beliefs. One of the main things that the mistake the organization makes is they focus too much on cost. Did we stay in budget? Did we reduce expenses? So when the organization is asking all these questions, they forget that value is also generating revenue, improving decisions, enable strategy. So the focus of too much cost limits the ability to see other benefits. There also is the belief of a silver bullet thinking. When we install the system will create value automatically, but we forget that the user must learn how to use a new system. Even if it's similar to what we had before, there's a learning period. Some process might have need to change. So we need to involve the individuals in the process to understand the changes that we are doing. And with that, with all that, if the system change, the process change, there's going to be behaviors for the users that needs to change. In addition, we are not able to explain what the value will be. So a lot of people explain the value with technical metrics like speed, uptime, but that does not answer the question that a business partner will think. So what? What is the value of that? Because if we are focusing on a speed and speed is not a problem, there's no value on that. So the next one, the biggest challenge in the organization structure is misalignment of stakeholders' objective. We know that depending on the position in the organization, each person will have different objectives. Executive might prioritize growth and revenue, manager might focus on efficiency and performance, IT teams might emphasize reliability and security. And if all the objectives have synergy, there's no problem. But in general, if we want reliability and security, you might have a higher cost. So that will be contradicting kind of objectives. And that's what usually creates a lot of issues within an organization. Another major challenge is unrealistic expectations. Organizations, and this is something that, again, this needs to be managed by communicating. Organizations sometimes expect immediate results, dramatic transformation in the organization, perfect system performance, but in reality, we know that the user needs time to adapt, process needs to evolve, and benefits appear gradually. Again, what you need to remember here too is that small hiccup when you are launching a new system can create that feeling that, oh, the system does not work. And I'm going to tell you a story. I was updating the database that we use where I used to work. And the first report that somebody generated, or I think it was somebody actually going to somebody's profile, some information was missing. So the first thing they said was, oh, see, this is not working, it wasn't done properly, and it was just a matter of time until everything was uploaded. And they didn't have that information at the time. So when we launch, we have only certain information available for the users. So this person already made a judgment call that the system was not working well or did not have all the information. And that made the person start using a manual thing. And without communication or explanation, you run into a situation that people will sabotage the adoption of the system. The other technological issue is the unknown or limitation of the capabilities that the organization has. So sometimes the organization does not understand what the limitations are, the skills that they need on the IT or technology, or even the user of that technology. What skill do they need? They lack the ability for the leadership to guide the change. Again, we need that leadership to be able to lead in a way that individuals make have a positive attitude towards the change and the integration of the new system, how to integrate the new system. Sometimes we like that. So this relates really to the gap between, can we create that, and do we have the ability, or are we capable of doing that? Another technical issue is the technical debt. So how do we manage all systems? How do we connect with all systems if we need to connect? And this limits our flexibility, increase maintenance costs, and makes integration of new technology a little bit more difficult when we need to integrate very old technology. Some organizations operate with a short-term planning and budget constraint. So obviously that creates it focuses the decision of IT in a short-term focus, which limits the ability of innovation. So if we have only a short-term planning, really we know that when we are creating a project that generates innovation or transformation or creates great value, it requires a longer period of time. Compliance, security, and risk requirements. Now, most organizations are required to follow certain rules in compliance, in security, and risk. And some have regulatory requirements, and these are necessary, but also add complexity into the system, and you need to balance the speed, the innovation, and the risk management with all this compliance. And one of the biggest issues is shadow IT. Shadow IT, I'm not sure if you are familiar with the term, is the system that was developed outside the IT department. And this happens when employee feels like IT is too slow to respond to their needs, or they never understand what we need and they create their own system. In general, their basic system, sometimes they can be more complicated, but that introduces security risk and reduce the overall ability to coordinate things within the organization. So when we look at this challenge, we can say that we have a pattern here. The problem is not technology. The way that we create value is to align capabilities and coordination. So even when we have a good technology, it might fail to deliver the value if the organization is not prepared to support it. And supporting means having business leader supporting the new initiatives, leading staff for the change. So the problem that we have is not only technological, but aligning to the organization's objectives, being able to communicate properly and coordinating around that technology. So one of the things that becomes critical in this is communication. And that's something that sometimes people with IT background have a difficult time to do. So when we talk about communication, we are talking about IT value story. How do we tell the IT value story? And that's what requires a convincing business narrative. And what is this? Is translating technology into business meaning. So what do we need to do is to stop talking about technology features and start talking about business impact. So a strong narrative has four key, clearly, why this matter to the business. And again, we cannot say this matter because it will reduce speed. So what? If it reduces speed, what is the business benefit? So you need to translate that technological benefit into a business benefit. Why does that matter? What problems are we resolving? How is the business involved? Who are the stakeholders? What are the role of the user and the stakeholder in this system implementation? And if these individuals are not involved in the development of the project, in terms of defining requirements, help you choose the best solution, it's going to be harder for them to use it. And what are the outcomes? Define how you're going to measure this was a success or not. So here are two different ways to tell the IT value story. We implemented a cloud-based solution, and the other one is we reduced system downtime by 40%, prevented lost sale, and improved customer satisfaction. Obviously, the second one is the best one. But why? Well, it focuses on results. Downtime, we reduced downtime 40%. It connects that impact to business, preventing loss of sale and improving customer satisfaction. So the answer, yes, we reduced the downtime by 40%. So what? So what is preventing the loss of sale and improving customer satisfaction? So this is a good example of how The IT value story bridges the language gap between IT and business. So how do we make a good business story? We need to make sure that we use metrics. And metrics serves two really roles. Justify investment before the project happens. This is how we justify the investment. And after the project, demonstrate the value. So we need to make sure that these metrics are defined early, not after the fact, align with the strategy of the business, are simple and measurable, and show trends and progress over time. So now we are communicating well. How do we consistently deliver the value over time? We need to make sure that we articulate the business strategy. So if we don't have a business strategy and we don't understand the business strategy, we won't be able to deliver IT value. So if we don't understand what the business is trying to do with the technology we're implementing, obviously we are not going to be able to implement anything that creates value. IT cannot work in isolation. Business leaders must be involved on the project. Stakeholders needs to provide input for the implementation to be successful. And users must take ownership of the outcome as well. Why, you might ask? If the business is not engaged, solution might not meet the real needs. Use business metrics, breaking strategy into measurable outcomes. So one way to make sure that you have business metrics is to break the strategies into measurable outcomes and align the IT deliverable with those outcomes. Don't measure IT success in isolation. Again, downtime, risk, don't mean anything for the business if that's not part of their strategy. And try to change those measures into business results mostly. Manage value. Again, value is not only created at the end of the project. It must be managed through the entire process. And how do you do that? Use agile methodology, break project into small phases, and adjust based on feedback, user feedback. This will allow you to correct mistakes. So if a user is telling you that this is not friendly, try to understand what that means, how you can change that before you implement the system. So little things make a difference. This means that sometimes value is lost because of small everyday issues. Again, you are implementing the new system, the internet goes down. That has nothing to do with the system, but the system is now not available for the user, and that creates frustration. And that becomes a big deal. Small technical glitch will create a big noise, while if the system was flawless, nobody's going to talk about that. Trust me, if the small issue appears once you are implementing the system, that's going to become a very big noise. So pay attention to those details. Value is not about new system, it's about ongoing performance of the system. So we need to make sure that we have budgets and we consider the maintenance costs, the support costs, the downtime risks, and planning for those downtime. So don't forget about operating those systems. So you're gonna say, well, as a developer, why are we talking about this? Well, when you are developing the system, I want you not just to ask what is the system needs to do. You need to understand who will use that system. What do they expect from that system? How will they experience it? How their perception will affect success? And what is their expectations? What are their goals? So if you ask these questions, that's going to be the difference between creating a system that works versus a system that will create value. So remember, if you create a perfect system that complies with all the requirements, work the way it should work, but people don't use it, then that's going to not create value. And that system will fail. So it doesn't matter that you had a great code and you were able to create what you needed to create. So now I'm going to give you 5 minutes break. And we are going to move on how organizations develop IT strategy to create the real business value. Okay? So 9:03, we are going to be back. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes.
The assignment one, is it gonna build off into future assignments or is it just a standalone?
It's standalone.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a big idea. IT strategy exists to connect technology to business goal. This might sound very straightforward, but when we go to practice, it's not. It actually really is an important shift in thinking on the role of IT within the organization. And why are we talking about IT strategy and why it matters and why organizations need to have an IT strategy and not just rely on business strategy, and from there we create a list of projects and things like that. First of all, IT role in the organization over the last 20 years have moved from a support role to a value creation role, a partner on the business. Today, IT directly impacts revenue, customer experiences, and competitive advantage. And this gives IT a role within the business as it affects growth, affects the cost. Then if the projects from IT affect growth and cost, it becomes a strategic decision, not just one that is technical. The second reason why IT strategy matters is markets evolve quickly. And mostly now that everything is interconnected, we have access to a lot of information that before we might not have. So, and technology, as we know, evolve constantly and quickly. So strategy cannot be something that we do once, we leave it there, and we forget about that. It needs to be continuous and adaptable. And IT strategy help organizations to remain flexible for that. And finally, when IT strategy and business strategy are developed together, this creates new capabilities within the organization. They are new ways, this strategy will create new ways of serving the clients, new ways of making decisions, or even way of competing within the market. You can think about IT strategy as a bridge. In one side, we have the organization's goal, where we want to grow, how we want to compete, what it wants to improve. Those are the goals of the organization, the business goals. On the other hand, we have the technology, we have the system, the platform, the data, infrastructure, etc. And what the IT strategy must do is connect these two things. So we have where do we want to grow, where we want to compete, and what are the platforms, the system, the data, the infrastructure that we have, and how those two things connect in a meaningful way. If we don't have that bridge, we either have business goal with not technical support, or we have a lot of technology that does not help where the organization wants to do. And in those situations, both create waste. And what are we talking about? This is managers, IT professionals, is one of the biggest mistakes that we do. We take technology as a technology isolated issue, and we try to resolve that technology in a technology hat only, but they are not. The technology decisions will shape the budget, the capabilities of the organization, the customer experience, the long-term competitive of the organization. So understanding where the organization wants to go, understanding how the IT technology will help for that, will create value. So now that we accept that technology or IT strategy matters, how does it actually relate to business? How do we do that? And that brings us to the next concept on the chapter, which is a strategic co-evolution. This chapter urges that IT strategy and business strategy do not operate on a separate track. They co-evolve. This means that they are developed together and one influences the other one. This obviously has become more important because of the sustainable competitive advantage that the organization wants to maintain. And with the changing environment, markets and technology is harder to do if we have these two in isolation. So what this means in practice is that business strategy might shape IT investments, and IT also shape what the business is capable of doing. If you think about new technology can create new strategies, options, it can change organization structure, workflow, customer interaction, etc. And the chapter, the book talks, models this, that new organizations' capabilities are driven by this synergy between this business strategy and the technology strategy together with the behavior and structure of the organization. To be successful, it can be business first and IT second. It has to be in conjunction. Business strategy affecting IT capabilities affecting business possibilities, and organization behavior adapting along the way. So this is a dynamic way of thinking about strategy. So you might think, well, this is great, this is a very theoretical concept, but in practice, organizations often struggle to make this kind of alignment work. And that's what led me to talk about what gets into the way for organizations to be able to have these dynamic changes. So the common pitfalls with IT strategy alignment are poor alignment. Means IT and business are not really working towards the same priorities. Business could be focusing on growth or customer experience, while IT is focused on system and operational issues. Again, the project might be completely successful, but from a technology perspective, but it fails to create the value that the business areas are expecting. Lack of stakeholder knowledge. This happens when business leaders do not understand enough technology. And IT leaders do not understand enough about the business. So when that happens, that creates a problem where the focus of the two parts are completely different. And I'm not sure if you have experienced that, but I have to deal with leaders that did not understand technology at all. And that's where you need to try to understand the business a little bit more to be able to empathize with that person, to be able to explain the technology. And this is not something that is going to stop happening, because usually leaders have so many things happening and technology changes so much that they cannot keep up with technology. Some are good, but a lot of the time business people do not understand technology. And that's why it's important for IT people to be able to understand the business. The other issue that prevents a good synchronization between the IT strategy and the business is the lack of big picture. Organizations sometimes become trapped into isolated decisions in the different areas. They have individual projects or immediate issues that they need to resolve and fix, and they don't look at how can we resolve this issue looking at the big picture. And that's where technology investment becomes fragmented. Another issue is IT is the only owner of IT project. And this cannot be like that. Cannot be like that. And when I have the education team asking me to find solutions, they have to be the leaders. They have to be the owner of that project. Because when IT projects are seen as IT projects, when technology projects are seen as IT projects, the rest of the team doesn't feel responsible for the project. And if the business doesn't feel responsible for the project and they don't have ownership of that, the adoption and value realization often are reduced. So this chapter talks about the shared responsibility of creating the IT value. It's not an IT responsibility only. We need to work in teams. Again, if the area that you're developing this project is not involved and they don't take ownership and they think that it's IT that is imposing this system, it's not going to work. So how do organizations move from that IT strategy on paper to actual action? And that's where IT strategy implementation comes. And IT implementation has two key components. One key component is the reduction of costs. So if too much of the IT budget is spent on maintaining all system, routine operations, then there's not going to be room for strategic initiatives. And that makes it hard to adapt and innovate. So the first thing we need to try to do is to reduce the fixed costs that will create flexibility for innovation. The second part is allocation of the remaining budget to achieve the desired strategy. And this is once flexibility exists, and once we were able to reduce the fixed costs and have budget for strategy, is decide where the money will go. And that we talk about how we can plan different projects, how we can prioritize projects, etc. And that's where assumptions needs to be articulated. What project planning and how we are going to prioritize this project. So the strategy becomes real to the project organization choices that we make for the organizations. And in general, this chapter talks about 5 different categories that that organizations prioritize. And you can see that these categories relate a lot to what we talked before. Business improvement project for cost reduction, business enabling project that extend or transform the operations, business operation projects, which are small-scale experiments, Operation laboratory project with scale up successful experiments, and infrastructure projects with improved future capability. And this book presents this framework because it shows that not all projects serve the same purpose. And we knew that when we did the analysis, some are about short-term efficiencies and some others are for long-term capability. And as we discussed before, a smart IT strategy cannot invest in one category only. If an organization spends only on cost reduction, it might become efficient but stagnant. So we know that we need to make sure that we diversify the type of projects that we are implementing. So we need to make sure that when we write that strategy, when we plan for that strategy, we cover the different projects, the type of projects in the organization. So you might ask, what makes organizations be much better than others to do this? And the answer is the critical success factor that we talked about before too. The book identified 4 factors that should be in place for strategic development to be efficient. The first one is the revisit your business model. So leaders might understand the business thoroughly and work to align those business strategies with the technology. If we don't have a clear business model, if we don't have where the organization goes and what they want to do, obviously we won't be able to create an IT strategy. Strategy themes provide a broad focus of alignment with various IT business initiatives, ensure consistency and adaptability. What I'm trying to say here is strategy should not be a random list of projects. It should evolve around focus themes tied to what important business capabilities we have. And we need to have small initiatives within the large problem. And that makes it easy to be managed. Get the right people involved. This is key. This is key, and sometimes because technological projects are IT projects, a lot of people don't get involved. Senior business manager needs to take the leadership on the IT decision making. Both CIOs and the executive team of the organization needs to discuss IT strategy regularly, and business managers need to be involved on identifying technology opportunities. This is important because strategy is a shared leadership responsibility. It's not an IT responsibility, it's a shared responsibility within the organization. The next one is work with partnership with business. To maintain a good IT strategy, you need to continuously synchronize between IT and business. And partnership is not just about leaders and IT making the decisions and then go and work on their own. It's about a collaborative process where IT and business strategy evolves together. And this synchronization is not about the leaders neither. This synchronization needs to extend down to individual projects and business processes changes. So if there's a project on process changes, IT needs to involve, and if there's a technology project, business people need to involve as well. So how do organizations improve strategy development and implement this over time? And this is where the book practice to improve IT strategy development. So the first practice is rolling planning and budget cycles. Instead of updating strategy, a lot of organizations have strategic planning once a year, but these strategies should be revised more frequently. That helps stay aligned with the changing business conditions. And this also, the frequency will depend on what type of industry you're in. Again, if you are in the technology industry, you need to do it more often. If you are on, let's say, an educational industry, you might not need to revise that often. But you need to understand what industry you're working, what is the environment you're working on, to make sure that you revise your planning, your strategy, as often as needed. Have an enterprise architecture is an integrated IT blueprint. These address business process, application, infrastructure, and data. This is useful to help the organization see how different pieces fit together rather than making disconnected decisions. So if you understand the architecture of the organization, then you will be able to see how new projects, new ideas fit within the organization easily. Again, organizations need to have funds across all 5 project types. This helps balance infrastructure needs, business improvement, innovation, long-term capability. When you have a separate funding bucket, it helps you ensure that portfolio stays strategy rather than reactive. The account relationship managers, this role help provide systematic assessment of new opportunities. You need people to look at new opportunities. You need somebody to be responsible to that. Identify synergies or interdependencies across line of business, and that supports better collaboration between business units and IT. And the last issue is prioritization of rubric. This helps organizations evaluate projects more consistently. So IT strategies is not something organization creates one, it is something they continually refine. As you can imagine, knowing what we know actually doesn't make it happen. So what are the challenges that you might face as an IT leader? So without an enterprise-wide governance and strong funding models, cross-functional projects become much harder to coordinate and sustain. Also, if IT and business strategies are developed separately, alignment becomes much harder. Even strong ideas can fail if the planning process themselves are disconnected. Traditional budget cycles often move too slow for the modern strategy needs, especially when business and IT budget process becomes at different times. And finally, the books point out that strategizing itself is a capability. Organization needs people who can think about cross-function, understand trade-off, and deal with conflict strategy prioritization. Again, this is not a simple thing. Each business unit, and the bigger the organization, the harder it is. Each business unit have their own strategy and they're gonna push for their own benefits. So again, the real challenge of IT technology project is not about the technology, it's about building the organizational capability to think and act strategically. So remember, organizations don't gain the value from the technology. They gain the value of how these are going to be used, how these technologies are going to be communicated and implemented. And the reason why organizations invest in technology is to move the organization forward. Remember that. So what do we need to do for week 9? Read chapter 3 and 4. Submit. It's gonna be July 9. I'm gonna tell you what the deadline is for submitting a project, a presentation. And then we have a case discussion for this class that relates to the topics that we just seen. And this case discussion is graded. So if you see the schedule, so it's 5% of your grade. So next class, we have again a lecture, my final lecture. Yes, it's today at midnight, is the first deadline. You can do it during the class time, or you can do it up until midnight. So also, let me bring up the course content. So if you go to weekly content, week 9, you will also see that we have a group presentation. I'm not able to show you here. Let me sign out. So what I need each group to do is to send me an email with your preferred chapter to be presented before July 9 and 9:50 a.m. I will, by the end of July 9, I will send you the confirmation of what topic you are presenting. And for class 11 and 12, there's gonna be 4 groups that are going to present in the class for those topics. The presentation should last between 30 and 40 minutes. And here's the evaluation criteria. And I will send you back, once you selected the topic, I send you back which day you're gonna be presented. Everybody though needs to submit their PowerPoint presentations and any other documentation by August 6th. So on August 6th, at the end of the class, you need to submit your slides. Yes, it should be 2006. It's not? Let me see. Yeah, 2006. Oh, yeah, it should be 2006. Let me change it here. Oh. So. So the deadline. So the deadline to submit the chapter choice is July 9, and the deadline to submit the PDF slide is July 20. July 20 at 10:45 a.m. is the deadline for that. And remember, we have to do the case study, so you can work on the case discussion now.
That's not a group thing, right? The case discussion?
No, it's individual case.
And the presentations have to be in person?
No, it doesn't have to be in person. That's a good question. The presentation can be online, but you have to have the camera on.
Okay.
Sorry, Professor, are we doing anything else in this class?
Yes, you need to be doing the case. The case is.
Okay.
That's it.
Is this an in-class thing? Because it says it's due at 11:59.
Yeah, it's due at midnight today, so you can do it in the classroom or you can do it after.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.